groups like your council, they go on retreats where they actually teach them. They say, hey, listen, you're not supposed to fight with each other. You're supposed to go along to get along, right? Now, it's possible to elect people with some, I don't know, backbone. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, backbone. I got a lot of backbone myself. And it is possible, but you really need to work to find those people because people will turn on you.
Let me talk about the sheriff. I'm going to direct you to your local sheriff because under our legal system, both legally and by tradition, the sheriff is the top law enforcement officer anywhere here in the country. And that's a good thing. You may have a rotten sheriff, but it's a good thing because they are elected and they will respond to the public. They're already trying to do away with the sheriffs. I believe it's New Jersey, maybe? Where they're trying to do away with the sheriffs. Okay? Don't let them do this. In fact, cultivate your local sheriff. Because, listen to me, when the banks come and they're going to repossess somebody's home, the sheriff should be the one to say, let's see your paperwork and let's see if it's proper. Most of the stuff, because of the housing bubble and the derivative market, it is not legal, it's bogus. But they're running people out of their homes because nobody knows any better, and the sheriffs will enforce it just as a matter of course. If you elect a sheriff who's looking out for you, and somebody's going to be repossessed, if they can't show them the proper chain of evidence and paperwork, the sheriff can tell the bank, sorry, go do something else. So cultivate your local sheriff.
Yeah. All right.
Another question?
My name is
Can we get house lights up so we can see?
I was going to say, Bill, can you bring the house lights up a little bit? We're going to light up the theater a little bit. We've got a lot of people here that want to ask a question, so try to make it concise and quick, okay?
Great, that's better.
My name is Ben White. I moved to Bastrop about 3.5 years ago with my wife. We moved because we were trying to find a place to live and got involved in our community, and we wanted a smaller community so we could know our neighbors and look people in the eye and not live in the big city Austin area. We got involved with this volunteer group, and I was most recently elected president of this volunteer group, which is called Imagine Lockhart, which is kind of funny. So I am the current president of Imagine Lockhart, and my question is, I had a question about the word sustainable and how that seems to be a very negative connotation word because of Agenda 21. However, the idea of being sustainable is a great idea, and that's one reason I like the idea of being in a small community where you can actually grow your own food and be a part of the community, not rely on the federal government or the state government or even the local government to provide for you. So, in my opinion, that's not a bad word. What I have a problem with now is I'm involved with a group of people who are wanting to be a part of the community and wanting to do this, and we're working on the farmers market and trying to get more people involved with that. And I was elected as president of Imagine Lockhart because I was volunteering as with my wife and a bunch of other people. I understand that some people are involved with things getting grants, which I hate grants. I don't want to get grants from a federal entity or even a state entity at this point. So, and we don't even need money, all we need is more community involvement. So my question is, and also a challenge I guess, is why are we making this about words and about titles, and why aren't we making it about the fight, which is getting the UN and the federal government and just government entities in general out of our business and letting us live freely?
Okay, I got you. Okay, here's the deal. You've got, okay, this is cool. You know, you want to grow your own food, you want to hang out with your neighbors, you want to create real community. And, but here's how this works, is that with transit villages and food sheds, you literally will not be able to get food that is not grown locally. And so this is actually part of Agenda 21, it's the transition movement, sustainability plans like this. They sound great, and of course, you know, I don't actually have anything on that's new. My partner she's a builder. She built a 2-story house out of recycled materials. It's not like we're not into recycling and creative reuse. What I'm saying is that these plans are designed to actually, they give the illusion of community and the illusion of local control. But what they are designed to do is actually restrict you to specific areas. This is neo-feudalism. You will find that you are in a region and that you, okay, for a while you're going to grow your own food, but then they're going to jack your water costs up. And you're not going to be growing your own food.
So I guess the question would be, is how do we use our local community and people that want to be involved locally to correspond with other people? I'm also precinct chair because I want to be involved. And so that involvement, how do I translate that into action locally? Because I think that's where it has to start. It's our local.
Hey, why don't you make those flyers and hand them to your friends who are in your sustainability group? Get this information out. Sustainability, the idea of sustainability is a green mask, okay? This is what I just spent the last hour and a half talking about. I know that you really dig your friends, you really want to create, security and food. This is about loving your environment and about loving your friends and your neighbors, and you want to be independent. This plan takes away your independence. It creates dependence. And it has this mask, which makes it look like it's all going to be really great, right? The vision of the glorious future. So the reality is, maybe in the temporary interim term, you will be growing your own food, and you're not going to eat. You're not going to be surviving on what you're growing. You're not growing enough food to actually live on that food. What it is that local sourced food is actually going to be where all of your food comes from. If it's not local, you won't be eating it. And that is the plan. This is about neo-feudalism.
And no dictator ever got power by saying, I want to be dictator. I want to kill people, and I want to control your life. It's always about saving the country, or better yet, saving the children. Okay?
I know it always sounds so good, or we wouldn't be falling for it. It didn't sound as great.
Exactly. And think about the basics. Democracy. We don't want a democracy. Democracy is a lynch mob. We were given a democratic republic, which is a nation of laws. And I ask you today, are we a lawful nation, or are we a lawless nation? We are a lawless nation because we have fallen under democracy, which is nothing but rule by the majority. And if you control the 5 corporations that control the media, you control the majority. Okay?
That's it.
It's that simple.
When they're talking about us in that media, right? What are they saying? You're going to read that in the newspaper. What are you going to read about tonight? You're going to read about a bunch of Tea Party, right-wing nutcases talking about some freaky, tinfoil hat conspiracy, and, this phony Democrat was up here talking about it. That's what you're going to read, right? Hey, you got the press here? Is that what you're going to write?
No, I want to clarify his question, because his question is, he can hand out and give the information out, but what can he do physically with his group to irk or to otherwise go against what they're trying to establish?
Well, don't participate in their game. Nobody's stopping you right now from growing food in your yard. And if you want to have a farmer's market, that's a nice thing. But what you want to do is look at the philosophy behind this and look at the consensus design for the entire plan. In fact, look at the structure for what you're doing. Who are you? Are you determining the rules and regulations for an entire area when most people have no idea who you are?
So in theory, that would be to move your group out of where they say that you can do that, and do it and keep doing it.
No, I say the first thing is education. Educate yourself, then educate your group, and then have the group go out and educate the zombies out there that are sitting there glued to the TV.
Yeah, you got people, let's use them. You can after you're done watering your plants, get out here and put this information to the public.
But the good news is that there's more of us than there are of them.
Yeah.
Okay, the bad news is we're all been asleep at the switch. I can't tell you how many times over the years as a journalist, newspaper man, I've heard, we'll leave it to Washington. Well,
Yeah.
we did, and look where it got us. So you're going to have to start operating locally and taking charge of your own life.
A question with a few inputs to it. I'm a retired Navy captain, and In my retirement, I faced it. In my retirement, I've got to say it. The current disarmament assault from the UN on the Second Amendment. This really got started in the U.S. in September 26, 1961, when John Kennedy signed into law a disarmament plan for the U.S. and the world. So this has been going on for a very long time. But you got to get out and get involved, like you said. 912 group in Central Texas did candidate forums last year, interviewing everybody that was running locally and in the regions. And one of the people that we got behind was Tom Maynard, because he was the only one in the forum when we asked, what's the problem with education? The answer was federal intervention.
It was what?
Federal intervention.
Uh-huh.
It started in the 60s when I was in high school. I could see it happening.
Yeah.
The good thing is that he's been assigned to the committee to investigate C-scope. He's part of the SBOE. So part of the solution is to not alienate yourself from these people that we want to get rid of, but is to get involved.
Well, that's true, but, you know, I agree with you, but then you really want to understand who it is that you're fighting and what the fight's about.
You have
Because,
to
you
get
know,
there and stop what they're doing and get it back to our constitutional republic.
that's
And
right.
get the principles back. One of the problems we have in Georgetown is a sheriff who doesn't believe in the Scalia ruling in 1996 when the sheriff was first. There are sheriffs out there who aren't doing their job. And it's important that we make sure we elect the right people.
Well, you know what? One thing, I can't remember who it was who said this, that, you know, you can't, it's not that easy to elect good people. So it's up to us to make bad people do the right thing. And this is our job as an informed electorate.
I say if God thinks for us to vote, He would give us candidates.
But the key thing is what you're saying is action. There's several groups of us. Once a week now, we're showing up at legislators
Excellent.
in their offices, telling them where they need to go,
Yeah, where they need to go. You know what? This terrifies. This literally, you know, of course, I am a liberal Democrat, right? And I think the Tea Party is great, 912 is great. This is what we want. We want an informed electorate that's active. This is what we want in our country. This is our goal now, is to get out of our stupor, whatever it is we've been doing. And I know a lot of people have been working really hard. So I'm not, you know, chastising anyone. I'm just saying more of us need to get on. And whatever it is, however you identify, whoever you want to connect with, you know, you just want to get out there as an individual, aligned with other individuals, and make this happen.
It works.
Yes, it does.
In 2011, I made every commissioner's court during the period they were working the budget, and I got in their face with arguments on why they couldn't raise taxes, and they still haven't raised taxes. So it works.
All right, thank you.
We've got about 10 more minutes, so let's ask questions, okay?
Hi, my name is Lori. I just moved to Bastrop actually last month. I'm from Michigan, and I, like you, have had some trouble with the school system. I used to be a teacher, and I meet tests at Michigan, standardized testing. I had the freedom to write my own lesson plans, but I still had trouble with the standards that I was asked to teach, so I can definitely relate on that. I agree with the fact that sustainability is not a bad word. It has just been incredibly convoluted in the greenwashing machine. And my question is how there are actual sustainability organizations out there that are doing a good thing, that are about you know, permaculture and rainwater harvesting and all the things that are actually sustainable, which is not using a lot of resources, which sounds like this smart growth thing would be doing. It's completely using, rebuilding the entire town doesn't seem very sustainable to me. So how do you tell the difference between a volunteer organization that's actually trying to do something for their local community, that's actually trying to implement positive strategies, because I do think that we are in a global climate crisis. I don't think that that's a lie. I definitely think that we have some issues with how we are using the planet. So how do you tell the difference?
I wanted to make a comment here, and that is that I think you pose a really good question, but one of the things that I think we need to be really careful of is we're actually protecting our intellectual sovereignty. Okay, we're protecting the mind of our children and our own minds, and they dominate the discussion by interjecting oversimplistic answers to really complex problems. And this is the kind of thing is that you get people under control by saying, well, you don't want the polar bears to lose their habitat now, do you? Well, you don't want the ice caps to all melt. Well, you don't want your children not to pass the STAR test now, do you? And when you hear questions that are really complex, and they're asking you for that head nod up and down, someone is using words to control a discussion. And they're using those words over and over to control the next action that you take. So, you know, I'm gonna pass this because actually you're the expert on this. But one of the things that you want to do is when you have something good that you want to accomplish, is look at the complexity of the problem and educate yourself so that the actions you're taking might be moving your world in the direction that you honestly, with authenticity, you want the world to go. If you don't do that, then someone else is leading you to take action in the way they want the world to go. And really, that's a big part of the reason why we're all sitting here.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, you know, it's a complicated thing, obviously, because there are many different elements of things. You know, why would you want to recycle your rainwater? And why, you know, these are all great things. Hey, why wouldn't you do, zero escapes, so you're not using up a lot of water, etc. These are all wonderful, and of course, this is part of the green mask. There's a total ideology that goes with that. You know, when you join a group, you need to look at that group. Who is on the board? Who are the funders? What is the background? If you're just you and your neighbors, that's cool, you know, it's you and your neighbors. But then what else do? You decide on the zoning for your area. You decide on what gets developed. You decide on who can get something and who can't. And pretty soon, you're part of some larger web that is actually multinational and is global. It's a globalist web, and it uses this green face. So you have to really look beyond that. And I would say, do not join any group. Why do you need to?
Thank you.
I'm Jan Barstow. I want to add just a sentence to what you just told her. When you go to the local group, those are the planning commissions, the zoning, those are the shills. They're going to rope you in.
Oh yeah.
That's where the danger jumps in. Groups, I don't care what words you use. If they're local, you're looking out for your own good. Yeah, don't funnel into the system. All right, I have a question. I'm a political animal. I adore politics. It is stinking filthy. I don't want to mislead anybody. It's a dirty, dirty, dirty rotten game. But I like lobbying. I love lobbying. I know how to do it. I want to know who to go through because I usually work alone. And my thing is relationships with the receptionist. I'll just say it out loud here because that's the way it works. If you win the receptionist on your side, you got somebody who's got a ear, is here 24 hours a day. So I call it guerrilla tactics, but there's other ways to do lobbying than just throwing information in their faces when they're selling you out behind the scenes. Because they'll nod and tell you anything, but they sell you out. They trade off votes. I know how the system works. So I haven't been involved in about 15 years. About 15 years ago, I had my big fights down there at the state capitol. But I'd like to get involved again. My angst is up. Who do I go to for through materials, and I'll pick them out?
I just want to say that I disagree with you on the fact that politics is just naturally dirty and underhanded. You have to understand, if everyone in this room, if all of us are together and we decide that we want a new road over here, and we all decide that, and then we argue over how to fund that road, okay? That's politics. It's been going on since year one, and it's going to continue. We are facing a worse situation than that, because the people today are under the control of this international monetary group, where people pushing Agenda 21, people, they're coming through the UN, they're coming through everywhere, they're pushing environmental issues, which is a concern. Everyone should be concerned with that. But they're using this to push their agendas, and the thing is, you have to look through all that. And today, in Washington, it's beyond politics, okay? This is criminality. They are violating the laws, violating the Constitution, violating international law. All right? Recently, there was an international convention held in Kuala Lumpur, and they found Bush and Cheney guilty of crimes against humanity, war crimes, okay? Now, we could all argue over that, except the point is, we set the precedent in Nuremberg in 1945-46. And we had violated everything that we said should be crimes against humanity. So we are guilty, okay? But hey, how come we're not discussing that? This is the 10th year anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. It's been 10 years. We have spent $800 billion. And what have we got to show for it?
I agree with you 100%. I like the political process. I'm the one that goes to sit on the committees. I put my hair up high, I'll put on a suit, and I just go as an independent. And my theory is you agree with them all the way until they agree with you. You know, I'm in there in the committees, and I get to know the groups, and I get to know who's there.
It's okay. You know what? Keep on monitoring and put yourself out there and speak out.
Well, I was in preschool. That's a biggie. I'm a certified teacher. I did all homeschooling, but I want to work in the C school because that's real important to me. So point and shoot, I'll go there. And on the Agenda 21, I was working on some of that stuff back in the 90s. I haven't done anything really since the 90s. It's just, but I would love to get involved again. I'm just itching to get out.
This is it. Do it. Now's the time. Get out there and get your information out. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Donna Moti, and I am a member of the Stakeholder Plus Committee of the Sustainable Places Project in Lockhart. They don't like me very much because I educate them. They block my emails. They mock me on Facebook. I don't care. And I'm here to ask you a question. I've been watching what they're doing in California with Michael Shaw and Deborah Goss. They are filing something called the misprision of treason. Could you address that, please?
Yeah. Okay, misprision of treason. Now, of course, Michael and Heather are friends of mine. You know, we hang out. Okay, you guys, check it out. This is something to think about. Misprision of treason is actually a law, and it says that if you are aware of treason, if you're an elected official and you're aware of treason and you do nothing, you can be guilty, you're guilty of a misdemeanor. Now, Michael has been going around, and people around the country have been going around and filing, basically going and putting their elected officials on notice that if they are aware of treason, they are being, they're being complicit and they're guilty of misprision of treason. Now, my concern is that when they hear that it's a misdemeanor, they're like, oh, well, so what? Now, treason itself, there is no statute of limitations on treason. Now, people who are participating in this plan are guilty of treason. And this is what we need to notify them of. Now, you can file a notice of misprision of treason, and I suggest that you do it. I think it's a good thing to do. But I think it's also important to notify in a very calm way that you identify treason, read the statutes, and then say that if your elected officials are not going to follow the law, that they are not following the Constitution, they are guilty of treason. And when we win this, and we will be holding them accountable for treason. And this is a very serious charge, and we make it seriously, because this is what's happening in our nation.
Hello, my name is Donald. I'm a recovering politician. During my term as county commissioner here, we had the EPA come in to declare the Houston Toad an endangered species. And we got into the whole issue with conservation easements and all that. I didn't really hear you address how the EPA uses its heavy hand to support the Agenda 21. Would you talk about that briefly?
Yeah, I'd love to. Actually, I'm trying to do a 3-hour speech in an hour and a half, so I really don't get enough time to really get into that. The EPA, the Endangered Species Act, has not saved one species. And the EPA uses, there's something that they do, and this is, we're talking about public-private partnerships and the cycle of nonprofits, which are funded by corporations, and influence government. What happens is a lot of nonprofits are suing. What they do is they bring a suit against the Environmental Protection Agency to actually create policy that the Environmental Protection Agency wants to create. And then the EPA will settle the suit with the nonprofit, basically recapitalizing them. And a lot of these nonprofits are actually funded by huge corporations. So what this does is it furthers the taking of the regulatory taking of private properties from individuals, so that you get to still pay your property taxes, but you don't get to use your property for anything. And of course, the Sacketts sued the Environmental Protection Agency, went up to the Supreme Court because they were getting fined $75,000 a day for something that wasn't happening on their property. They were accused of having wetlands on their property. Or in Idaho. There were no wetlands. People got a permit to build. The EPA said, hey, you put the trees and everything back where they were, and we're fining $75,000 a day. These people were not able to challenge the EPA unless there was no provision for them to challenge that fine until they went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Now that is what's happening in our nation, where we are being run by overreach, by federal agencies that are doing tremendous overreach in the guise of environmental concern. But this is about restricting and taking our property rights. And one thing, when you get a conservation easement on your property, which means that your title is split and you can't develop, you've agreed to accept some money in exchange for development, when the underlying fee, what you own, what's left of what you own, is sold, usually it's purchased by the conservation easement holder, and now it disappears. There is no longer a conservation easement on that property. Now that holder can do whatever it is that they want with that property. This is happening all across the United States.
Hi, my name is Catherine, and I have a question. Since Agenda 21 is all based on international law, and lawmakers are accepting this, why can't we